Step 3, creating the topo. So at this point, I want you to open up beginning step 3.ppf. .ppf is the default extension for a LandMentor file. And once you open it up, you will see a screen that looks like this. Press the layer button. You'll double click on active and change it to inactive. Make sure it's inactive, then hit done. We want to deactivate boundary layer because if the boundary layer is active, it will act like a break line. And a break line leads the topo down a different path. We don't want it to follow the boundary line. We want it to follow. I want you to right click on Zoom Extends or hit Alt-Z. It's the same function, and then the screen will refresh and you'll see the boundary disappear. Go to Topography, create a DTM or digital terrain model. It will show a topo. It will ask for a unique name. Typically, you'll use a default existing, so you just press OK. Why name the DTM? Because you can have multiple DTMs. You can have this proposed and stuff like that. We don't recommend carrying too many because you could get confused, but you can carry multiple DTMs. Red is low, green is high. That red circled area doesn't quite look right. Really should have the contour lines always on. So you'll click Show Always On for this because they don't refresh on a drawing unless you tell it to. And then we'll go Edit Active Surface, and that will show the triangle net. So what we need to do is flip that upper right triangle because it has that flat area. That's not right. What we want to do is use the middle button of the mouse and click to that point, holding the middle button down, and then move to the point that we want it to, and you'll see a line, a red line, and then once you get to that new point, release that button, and it will change the net when you hit the right button, and then it will change the contour lines to the correct area. Again, red is low, green is high. If you create or delete a geometric point, will the contours change? And the answer to that is no. To quickly turn layers back on and off, just hit Q. That's a flip switch. That's quickly to turn them on and off. Topography parameters are set in the preferences. What's the line width? What's the interval? Things like that. Do you want them labeled? That's all in preferences, and that we'll go over in more detail later. Now, I would recommend never putting smooth on, as shown here, because that throws the contour lines off. Common features would be to show slope shading. It's hard to see them with this screen, but flow arrows. But they should be easily seen on your screen. How does the drainage flow? Those are two common things. It's critical to create a correct DTM because it's the basis for design and engineering. So how many points have been created up until now? And the answer is none. The initial site's compiled. You now have some experience with the 3 buttons of the mouse. The boundary of the site and existing structures are shown. You've created a digital terrain model, and you know the contour surface is just integrated. It's just there for when you need it. So the surfaces are the way you're going to communicate as you're working on the plan, and you're going to communicate to the client and the public. And you won't need a Photoshop or similar package to finish up that drawing. Open up beginning step 4. Now when you do, it's going to ask you if you want to save your previous file. Always answer no, because we don't want that to change for other future classes or if you want to review. Once beginning step 4 comes up, what I want you to do is click the pointer on the word Times New Roman next to layer 0, and a pop-up will come up. That's the layer attributes. I want you to take and click on the annotation style and choose bearing on top, distance on bottom, and then press submit. And you'll see the bearing on top and distance on bottom of all the lines. What I want you to do is change the lines where the bearing is on the inside of the site and change it to the outside. So by holding Control down and the left button to snap to line work, and then each line will turn yellow, and then press the right button, I want you to then change line with the bearing on the bottom and the dimension on top distance. You'll get the dimensions on the correct side. Press Alt-Z or the screen refresh button on the top of the screen. The new bearings and distance is shown. So how much extra data did you create by adding the annotation? And again, there is no extra data. It's just intelligence. So press Z, it's different than CAD, and hold the left button down, drag your window and release it. Far less keystrokes. And then you'll zoom up approximately on that area to get that to show up. Now you'll see as we zoom up, the driveway lines do not intersect. So we're going to go into drafting, and you're going to hit extend and snap to the garage door part of the house, that line, and get towards the middle of the line, not the ends, because that means you might snap to the wrong line. And then just snap to those two lines and they will extend to the garage, and then press escape when you're done. And you'll see two red dots. Those are the original survey points that are protected, but they're no longer connected to a line. They're floating points. They're protected floating points that you won't easily erase because they're protected. Then select geometry and then select split. So those new lines, though you just created two new points, are exactly intersecting the face of that house. So by hitting split and snapping to that blue line with your mouse left button, you now split that line into three different entities. And now you've got a closed driveway. So press escape, select surfaces, by name, type in the word drive, hit submit, and snap anywhere within that driveway with your left button. Make sure you don't get too close to two lines. If it does, then a prompt comes up and you just have to press OK. And you'll see the driveway is filled with an asphalt texture. So if it doesn't create a filled surface, what does that indicate to you? It tells you you have an error. It does not close. Fills are colors. It's just a simple name. You can see walk, wall, creek, or their texture. Textures could be any texture you derive off the internet that's tileable. So if I scroll down to drive, you'll notice it's impervious. So it's automatically going to say it's an impervious surface. And this, for now, just press done. And then ZE, zoom extends, to get to the full site, or the zoom extends button on top. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into fills. I'm going to change creek, and we're just going to change it to house. H-O-U-S-E, spell it right, more descriptive name, single family house, and spell family right, paint with the color. So this is going to be the outside walls if the house is shown in 3D. That house is going to be 20 foot tall. So we're going to put some virtual reality settings at the same time, and I want to change that to a little bit more pleasant color when it's seen. And so now I have house that exists. So what we're going to do is a shortcut, and you see the right button here, the right button on the top of that button that says by name. I'm going to right click, and you'll see house appears. So all I have to do is double click that and go into house, and you'll see it's 2,309 square foot at the upper right part of the screen. I'll do the same thing with pond that exists and with my total site. And again, Alt-Z or hit the Zoom Extends button will show you those areas created. So what we did was we created house, we snapped in the house, snapped in the site with site, and we snapped into the pond with pond. And we did that, in this case, not by typing in site and pond, because those were fills that existed. So now we're going to talk about the last part of this step. And I want you to open beginning step 5. Again, when it asks to update the existing file, answer no. So what we're going to do first is offset the overall surface to create a setback line. So we're going to offset surface, and inside the prompt will say click in the area you want. So click anywhere in the site that's not the house, driveway, or pond with the left button, and a prompt comes up. We want to offset the entire site, and you'll hit submit. So wait a second, we're in the middle of the prompt. We forgot to turn the easement layer on. While you're in a prompt, you can then change the layer, so you don't have to get out of the routine to go, oh, I forgot to change the layer. You can do it while in the prompt. So in this case, enter offset distance to 25. 25 is, just take a look at the drawing, minus is the outside, plus is the inside. You'll see minuses and pluses, so it's going to remind you. And then press submit, and you'll see the 25-foot offset. Alt-Z will refresh the screen. Now what we're going to do is a little bit different. Everything you see is a legal boundary. But what we're going to do is we're going to find a 3-acre area on the west side of the site. And we're going to do it by using the trapezoid. With the trapezoid, the prompt says select the first line. That will be that line on the top, that green line. Then it's going to ask to select a point on that first line. That's going to be that upper left corner. So you have to be a little bit close because there's points around it. Now we could isolate only that layer, and then it will only snap to those points, but we're not going to do that in this case. It's not that complex. Then the prompt asks for the second line. That's the lower line. And then the second point off that line, which is that lower left corner. The next thing the prompt asks, which side? Is it A or is it B? So if you look at that line, the red is the end of the line, the green is the beginning, and so you want to select B side of that line. So highlight B, and then it's going to ask for area. We want acres, not square foot, and if you type in 3A, it will convert from acre to square foot, and then you just want one of them, one essentially line or lot. So once you do that, you'll press submit, and a dotted line on layer 7 will show you what area 3 acres is. Now you've created a 3-acre line to use for reference as you design. So how many point numbers did you have to be aware of to do all of this work? How many point numbers did you need to be aware of? And of course, the answer is none. You read in raw field data. You learned to use the point descriptions instead of the point numbers. You learned how to create a digital terrain model and contour lines. You created surfaces and built geometry from a surface shape. So you should now be aware of the general use and feel of LandMentor.